We have all the evidence needed to prove it to anybody, if they'll just look at the evidence, that 9/11 was an inside job, right?
9/11 was an inside job! 9/11 was an inside job, people! Wake up!
It is an elitist group who get together every year at very remote places in the world with high security. And anyways, what they do is pretty much plan out their plans for, the years to come as to how to, construct world government.
Basically, the banking establishments of the world.
Yeah, I was getting to that.
You got the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, Warburgs.
Actually, weren't the Clintons there?
Clintons.
Like,
Yeah.
Yep.
You said you would go if I answered the question. All right, here's the answer. I happened to be in Europe then on my way to Russia. I was invited to go to Bilderberg by Vernon Jordan, a friend of mine, and to the best of my knowledge, NAFTA was not discussed by anybody in my presence.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky.
And some of the top politicians, basically a power elite fest held every year, and they basically decide the policies of the world. Then they have their little buddies such as the CFR in the US and the Royal Institute of International Affairs in England. And you see, when we try to explain to people the actual Bilderbergers, they usually think it's like some burger joint that we're talking about. But it's, just so you know, it's not.
Do you think these Bilderbergers actually talk about burgers and stuff? I think people will believe that they, the most important people get around, to meeting each other in private every year just to talk about how to sell their burgers.
Yeah, come to think of that, I don't think that's how it goes.
I have a good buddy at one time, J. Edgar Hoover, director of the FBI, 40 years ago. He said the individual is handicapped by coming face to face with a conspiracy so monstrous that he cannot believe it even exists. And that's the problem we have today. This conspiracy is so monstrous, so demonic, that we tell people about it and they say, "You're crazy, this is America, it can't happen here."
I can't tell you because they're controlling my thoughts through my dentures. I'm serious, man. Thank you. They told me that they would increase the severity of my headaches if I said anything about them in public, so I can't.
I had an invitation about a week ago to the Council on Foreign Relations. They're meeting 3 times this week. I believe they sent invitations to all the delegates. They were instituted by Rockefeller, I believe, back in 1923. They do try to influence the media to a certain degree. There's a great amount of people in the media who are members of the Council on Foreign Relations. They do try to influence politics to a certain degree. Richard N. Haas, he is the president of the Council on Foreign Relations. He was moderating the symposium, and they opened it up to questions. I asked him grabbed the mic and I said, is it wise for us to try to influence our elected officials to violate their oath to the people in these foreign engagements? With using the government to do that is certainly not the democratic process, because it's outside of their contract. And he kind of just said to me, after stumbling a little bit, this guy is absolutely got the best composure I've ever seen of anyone. He just totally stumbled. And he said that it would be dangerous to allow, individuals to have the control of that the government is by some whatever has this authority to do these things. The Constitution, it says we the people ordain and establish this Constitution, not we the government. So, he completely ignored that. I mean, that wasn't really important to him. He also said that they don't influence people to violate their Constitution, but I think they do. And I believe everyone would agree with that.
I have a pretty close-up vantage of that world, and I could be wrong, and again, I'm completely open-minded about everything. But my strong sense is that all those sort of, international relations groups, I mean, usually it's a bunch of retired State Department office, consular affairs officers who, get together and talk about their dreams for the way the world ought to be.
If you want to know where Barack Obama, where John McCain get these things that they run on, right there at that meeting, you will find the source of where those ideas are coming from. Because, see, it wasn't from the American people. The idea of, let's say, hiking up the gas prices, like Obama was suggesting, that's something that came right out of the mouth of a think tank from the Council on Foreign Relations.
I mean, it's pretty bureaucratic. I mean, maybe it's a vast conspiracy, but I have trouble believing it.
A lot of these things, the ideas that they're conveying, come up with these with think tanks, and then they give them to the candidates. Richard N. Haas meets with the candidates on a regular basis. He met with Mike Huckabee back in September of 2007, before Mike Huckabee surged in the polls. And they do have a agenda. Maybe some of them do have good intentions with it, but the agenda to bring our world to a one world government. But I don't believe that they have the idea or understanding of individual sovereignty or appreciate that.
Bilderbergers? I hear that term, I'm not really sure what it is.
That recent Bilderberg group meeting in, what was it, Virginia?
Yeah, recently there was one, and there were some reports on it. I didn't read a whole lot about it, but
Man.
they certainly were there.
What do you think they're doing there? Seriously, what do you think they're doing there?
Well, they probably get together and talk about how they're going to control the banking systems of the world and natural resources. And we get together and we talk about how we're going to get our freedom back. So we have our own things to talk about too.
Do you know anything about a group called the Bilderberg Group?
Called the what?
Bilderberg Group?
No.
The what? Bilderberg Group. No.
Group? The who to what a group?
The Bilderberg Group. No.
Yeah, the problem is that we don't actually have that much power anymore. Let me just say, if evidence arises that Henry Kissinger and Zbigniew Brzezinski are directly controlling world events from some hidden location, I will be the first one to say, holy That's a great story. I mean, look, I don't know, and I don't like to presume to know things I don't. But let me just suggest one thing. This is my guess. I think if you were able to penetrate to the very beating heart of the Bilderberg conference, or sneak into a CFR meeting in disguise, you would be so bored that you would nod off.
The idea
Well,
scandalized traditionally.
frankly,
David Willey
in my activism, it doesn't really matter which men behind the curtain are pulling the strings. So I'm not concerned with analyzing, how the CFR works, because if they're part of the worst result of the CFR is that they get us in, they are allowed to bully us and badger us and propagandize us into destructive foreign policy.
This is scary. There are time-tested ways that would-be dictators close down a democracy or crush an open society. And we're seeing each of these 10 put in place right now. You saw it in Germany when the National Socialists took over legally a parliamentary democracy. It wasn't a coup. They did it systemically, step by step.
If I would tell you that Hitler rolled into my country with tanks and guns, I would distort history. The truth is, we elected Hitler by 98% of the vote by means